Amy, I don't see a quorum yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Like it's on it.
Mayor,
Yes.
looks like we have quorum, but we're missing Griner, Cooper, and Greenwell, and Nice.
Okay, well, okay, there's Mark. All right. All right, well, we have a few presentations, so we'll go ahead and get started. Actually, Amy, because I don't have power, I don't have access to the announcement. Is there a way? I don't suppose I have to make the announcement. Do you have the boilerplate announcement that we usually make before meetings?
Oh, I will find it. Here we go.
It's on the front of the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mayor, I have it now.
Okay. Clerk, if you wouldn't mind reading the announcement before our meeting.
Okay, so this is the teleconference city council meeting of February 16, 2021. Thank you for joining us. We have a few announcements to make regarding the teleconference meeting. If the teleconference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvened once the audio connection is restored. If communications are unable to be restored within 30 minutes, items remaining for consideration will be continued to today, February 16th at 1:00 p.m. via teleconference. The agenda and documents are located on okc.gov. Anyone wishing to speak about an agenda item, public hearing, or to speak under citizens to be heard, please call 405-297-2391, or you can text 405-219-7927, or email cityclerk@okc.gov. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to comment. After 3 minutes, the speaker's microphone will be muted. A 30-second reminder will be provided prior to the microphone being muted. We ask that all participants, except the council members, keep their phones on mute until they are recognized to speak. Please press *6 to speak. council will be allowed to ask questions or comment at any time during the meeting. And now, Mayor, you can call the meeting to order.
All right, thank you, Amy. And of course, welcome to our new city clerk. We're very glad to have you. You are beginning under unusual circumstances. So thanks for all your work this week. Okay, this is a special meeting of the City Council. It will look and feel in every way like a regular meeting of the City Council. The only reason that it turned into a special meeting was to accommodate the change in state law that allowed for virtual meetings, which has turned out to be fortuitous on multiple levels. So I call this special meeting of the City Council to order. And we will begin with an invocation. Again, not having access to internet, I don't actually have access to our pastor's name right now. Craig, who is our, do you have that information, who our pastor is? I'd like him to be properly introduced. Does anyone who has the name, or even the pastor himself?
Sorry, is it Dr. Joe Pierce?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. It's Pastor. It's Pastor Mark. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Pastor
Mr. Mayor.
Hooper? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, did you already call the meeting to order?
Yes.
I believe that we did. So we are actually on item 2.
Okay, fair enough. If someone would communicate with the pastor, we'll bring him back for another meeting. And we don't typically have a Pledge of Allegiance for our virtual meeting, so we'll dispense with that as well. And you are correct. We are on item 2. This brings us to Office of the Mayor. We have one item off the agenda. That is a Black History Month proclamation. And I know that was something specifically requested by Councilwoman Nice. I don't know if she's here, but if she is, we'll have a few words from her after the reading. But first, Clerk, would you please read our Black History Month proclamation?
Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by Africans and African Americans and their descendants to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas Black History Month grew out of the 1926 establishment of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas the 2021 national theme for the observance is the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity. As the Black family offers a rich tapestry for exploring the African American past and present, and whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to dismantle and eradicate racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas the City of Oklahoma City continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their human value and contributions, both potential and previous, to our community, the state of Oklahoma, the nation, and the world. And whereas the people of Oklahoma City are committed to recognizing Black history like never before, through the $25 million public commitment in 2019 to the creation of the Clara Looper Civil Rights Center and the ongoing efforts to create a permanent commemoration of the sit-in movement in downtown Oklahoma City. And whereas the City of Oklahoma City is proud to honor the history and contributions of African Americans, including the all-Black towns, the community of Deep Deuce, civil rights movement sit-ins, government, public service, education, health, science, technology, engineering, music, arts, math, and beyond in our community throughout our state and nation. Now, therefore, I, David Holt, Mayor of the City of Oklahoma City, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2021 to be Black History Month in Oklahoma City in recognition of African Americans, past and present, in our community and encourage all citizens to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous for all.
Thank you, Amy. And I see that Councilwoman Nice has joined us, and this was her special request. Councilwoman Nice, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I just want to continue to acknowledge, as we did at our last council meeting, Black History Month. And this is the most befitting way to do that, by proclamation, although there were some extra things added in the proclamation that I did ask for. I think it's necessary for us to also keep in mind the firsts that were a part of our state, that were also a part of our city, and the ones that have made contributions to our nation, and our Black families that are continuously at the forefront of conversations of trying and working towards justice and social justice, and working towards representation of acknowledging Black families and African Americans and their contributions to, again, where we serve and how we serve. So I also want to continue to give recognition to the first African American that served in this space where I currently sit, Dr. Charles Atkins by appointment, and also Dr. A.L. Dow by election the following year, and the many more that came before of the shoulders that we stand upon in Ward 7 and in Oklahoma City, as far as our civil rights and the young people. And I think of Green Current, who was the first African American to also serve as far as our state before we were a state entering statehood in 1890, if I'm not mistaken, is when he was elected. So these are the many accomplishments, and we need to continue and should continue to the fabric of where we came, and commemorate those pieces of not just African American history during the month of February, but throughout every single month of every single year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to item 3A. This is a resolution recognizing and commending Lisa Pitts on her selection as February 2021 Teacher of the Month by Oakdale Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. I think I saw those computers labeled Joe Pierce, which tells me that I think Lisa might be joining us. But before we get to her, let us hear the resolution. Clerk, would you please read?
Whereas Lisa Pitts has been named Teacher of the Month for February 2021 by Oakdale Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. And whereas Lisa is currently a 5th grade science and STEM teacher at Oakdale Middle School and has 26 years of teaching experience. And whereas Lisa was named a 2021 state finalist for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. She was named a 2019 Devon Energy STEM Teacher of the Game and a 2016 state finalist for Oklahoma Teacher of the Year. And whereas Lisa has been the Junior Bot Ball Challenge robotics coach since 2013, and whereas Lisa serves as the elementary director for the Oklahoma Science Teaching Association and is a participant in the Central Oklahoma Regional STEM Alliance. And whereas Lisa helped write the Oklahoma State Department of Education's 2020 Oklahoma Academic Standards for Science Frameworks, and whereas Lisa was named an Oklahoma Excel Improvement Fellow and is a teacher influencer for the National Air and Space Teacher Innovator Institute. And whereas Lisa has also been an instructor for Kids College at Rose State College, and whereas Lisa has dedicated nearly 3 decades of her life to educating, encouraging, and inspiring children to endeavor to be future innovators, scientists, and leaders. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Lisa Pitts on her selection as February 2021 Teacher of the Month by Oakdale Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
Okay, thank you, Amy. And I believe I see Lisa now. Lisa, would you like to say a few words? Thank you for joining us and thank you for all you do for our kids. And you are muted.
My computer was acting a little glitchy. Thank you for the invitation to be here today and represent teachers. Right now, this is just an unprecedented time for educators, and I think we're all just working harder than ever, trying to do what's best for our kids. Thank you very much for this honor. I'm just humbled beyond words. It's kind of weird hearing that list of stuff that we all just do all the time. But Mayor Holt, thank you very much. Council members, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Excellent. And this is a resolution. So is everyone else signed on to Prime Gov, Amy?
Councilman Cooper isn't.
Councilman Cooper is not. Okay. Well, those who can make a motion, why don't we try to make a motion? And again, I'm not on Prime Gov because I don't have power. So I think, Amy, you'll have to sort of speak up and say when we have a motion in a second.
Okay.
And then Councilman Cooper and I will vote orally.
Okay. Looks like we have a motion and a second.
Okay. Everyone who can cast your votes. Councilman Cooper, how do you wish to vote?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And I vote aye as well.
I'm in, it just says waiting. I don't know what that means. And also, Lisa, congratulations. I'm so proud of you as a fellow teacher. I just wanted, could you tell us a little bit more about Kids College at Rose State College? As a former avid college preparation teacher, I'm very intrigued by that concept. And thank you for your work on the standards for the science framework too. That's wonderful. That's not just a list of stuff to me.
Any other votes on there?
Yeah, I would love to share about Kids College. It's actually kind of a passion of mine. About 17, 18 years ago, Brett Wood, who is a dean at Rose State, approached me and another teacher about starting Kids College. His vision was, to inspire kids to offer them things that they couldn't necessarily get in school, but more academic related, not just a summer camp. So we started with just elementary kids, and it moved on through high school over the years. They've tracked the kids actually, and they've seen that these kids that attend Kids College are ones that tend to go on to college later on and have successful careers. They were really trying to target lower income families to just give kids an opportunity to experience things they couldn't normally experience. So that's just like a pet passion of mine to be able to work that during the summer.
That is wonderful. That was even better than I thought it was going to be.
Thank you.
And thank you for that context. And I'm sure my staff and council will be very interested to keep learning more about that. Thank you so much for that work. Thanks for all you're doing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amy, do we have a vote yet? And you're going to have to announce them.
I just need a vote from Councilman McAtee. Councilman McAtee.
Councilman McAtee, we can take your vote verbally, but you are muted currently. How about, oh, there we go. Okay, go ahead, Councilman. How do you wish to vote?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have all the other votes.
So go ahead, Amy, and announce the vote. Passed unanimously, I
Passed
presume?
unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, it did.
Lisa, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and congratulations, and thank you again for all you do, and stay warm. All right, 3B is a resolution of commendation for Kendall Hamilton on his selection as the February 2021 South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month. And we have a resolution there. Amy, would you please read?
Whereas Kendall Hamilton has been a city employee for 10 years and is a safety analyst in the Streets, Traffic, and Drainage Maintenance Division of the Public Works Department. And whereas Kendall Hamilton has diligently worked to keep 200 employees safe during COVID-19 while performing operational duties. And whereas Kendall Hamilton implemented a daily program of disinfecting and deep cleaning 6 public works buildings following guidance from the CDC to include disinfection of doors, doorknobs, countertops, tables, and other hard surfaces. And whereas Kendall Hamilton volunteered to conduct employee non-contact temperature checks before work each day. And whereas Kendall Hamilton demonstrated the ability to plan, resolve, and learn from the pandemic to improve the safety and well-being of Public Works Department employees in a time of crisis. And whereas Kendall Hamilton improved facility safety measures and critical infrastructure protection measures that saved the city countless dollars. And whereas this council desires to recognize Kendall Hamilton for his dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the residents of the city of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Kendall Hamilton, February 2021, South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
Thank you. Kendall, are you on the line with us?
My part's done.
Oh,
So, my heart beat so fast.
Okay, if you could just mute, don't forget to mute. Kendall, are you on the line with us? All right, well, I guess, Craig, do we think Kendall's not there?
Yes, I don't see him on here right now.
Okay, well,
But
we're
I
very
think, you know,
grateful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mayor, I think Kendall's really an example of what we've seen with so many employees who stepped up in these times and done so many great things, just to be aware of the situation and be proactive to take actions to help keep our employees safe. And so I really appreciate his work and his service for the Public Works Department and for the city as a whole.
Yeah, very grateful for him. All the employees right now, these are the folks who are keeping our city running right now. Let us go ahead and take a motion and a second and a vote on this resolution, and those who can utilize your Prime Gov to do so, please. Councilman Cooper, are you still unable to vote?
We have a motion and a second.
Not only am
Okay.
I available, I seconded it, Mayor.
Oh, okay, very good. All right. Well, everyone else vote, and I vote aye, Amy.
Okay,
And just announce the vote as soon as you have it.
okay.
what?
Oh. Councilman McAtee, can we have your vote?
He's voting aye, but I can't hear it.
Councilman McAtee, you're still muted.
Councilman McAtee votes aye.
Thank you. Okay, it passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, that concludes Office of the Mayor, which brings us to item 4, Journal of Council Proceedings. We have items A and B we can take with one motion. Go ahead and please feel free to make that motion on your Prime Gov system.
We have a motion and a second.
All right, everyone else cast your votes, and I vote aye.
I also vote aye.
Thank you.
It passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, Amy. Okay, that brings us to item 5, request for uncontested continuances. There's nothing listed, but Mr. City Manager, do you have some items?
Yes, I do. We have several. On page 7 of your agenda, item 9A has been requested to be deferred to March 2nd. Item 9B, 1 and 2 is requested to defer to March 2nd. Item 9C, 1 and 2 is requested to defer to March 16th. And then on page 8, under dilapidated structures, item 9G1, all of these items will be stricken from the agenda. Item I, 1233 Northeast 14th Street to re-notify the owner. Item J, 1613 Northeast 14th Street, re-notify the owner. Then on item 9H1, unsecured structures. Item H, these items will all be stricken from the agenda. Item H, 2600 North MacArthur Boulevard to the owner is secured. Item I, 1426 East Park Place, the owner is secured. Item J, 1938 West Park Place, the owner has secured. Item P, 1328 Northwest 9th Street, the owner is secured. Item R, 1017 Northwest 10th Street, the owner is secured. Item T, 1613 Northeast 14th Street to re-notify the owner. Continuing on 9H1, unsecured structures, page 9, item AC, 3917 Southwest 27th Place, the owner has removed. Item AD, 1440 Northeast 29th Street, the owner has secured. Item AE, 710 Southwest 30th Street, the owner has secured. Item AG, 2350 Northwest 35th Street, the owner has secured. Continuing on page 9, under 9I1, abandoned buildings. These items are all stricken from the agenda. Item E, 2600 North MacArthur Boulevard, the owner is secured. Item G, 1426 East Park Place, the owner is secured. Item L, 1017 Northwest 10th Street, the owner has secured. Item M, 1613 Northeast 14th Street, to re-notify the owner. Item R, 2350 Northwest 35th Street, the owner has secured. And then on claims recommended for approval on page 11, item 9A1, we will strike that item from the agenda. I'm sorry, item 10A1. And that is all the items I have.
All right, thank you. Okay, we have no revocable permits under item 6, so we will recess the council meeting and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where we have items A through C we could take with one motion. And if you'd like to do so, please use your PrimeGov system. And Amy, just let me know when we have a motion in a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilman
All right,
McAtee,
if
how do
everyone
you
would-
vote?
McAtee votes yes.
All right, and everyone else, please cast your votes, and I vote aye as well.
Okay, it passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we will now adjourn OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we have items A through C we can take with one motion.
We have a motion and a second.
All right, Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
I vote aye.
All right, I vote aye as well. Everyone else, please cast your votes electronically.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Amy. We'll adjourn OCPPA and convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. We only have claims and payroll, but we'll go ahead and take a motion on that as well.
We have a motion and a second.
All right, please cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Amy. All right, we'll adjourn Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust and reconvene as the council, where we find ourselves on page 2 of your printed agenda. Item 7, the consent docket. There are no scheduled presentations. So are there any items that a council member wishes to pull out for separate vote or just a separate discussion? And I guess just speak up if you have something.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to hear a little bit more. None of these are separate votes, but
Yep.
Item 7I, learn a little bit more about those improvements. And then
Okay.
it could just be me. Item 7N3, I was confused because it says Ward 2, but it talks about Lincoln Boulevard north of Reno Avenue. And while two great city streets, I don't think those are Ward 2. So I was just very confused what that was. So I was looking for some clarification.
Mr. City Manager well, maybe we can handle that right now. Mr. City Manager, you think that's just a mistake?
I do. I believe that's just an error in the document there. That should be Ward 7.
Okay. Thank you for your clarification.
Okay.
Okay. And then item 7S. I was just curious. Did you say City Manager was going to be a presentation on that? Did I miss that? I was just curious to learn a little bit more about those.
No, sir, we don't have any planned presentations.
Okay, just curious to learn a little bit more. And same with 7U. Just curious to learn a little bit more about what those crime prevention and education services kind of look like.
What was that last item?
Yes, sir. 7U.
Okay, gotcha.
And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
For item 7N3, I would like just more information on that for someone
Okay.
to speak about it.
Okay, is that it? All right. Well, we'll take them in order then. Item I, Councilman Cooper, you wanted to talk about Will Rogers Gardens.
I would love to always and only speak about Will Rogers Garden. There are some irrigation system improvements heading to the park. Looks like there's the final plans and specifications will find themselves advertised for bids. And I just wanted to learn a little bit more about that and anyone following along.
Mr. City Manager, I can respond. This is Eric Winger, Public Works Director for Oklahoma City. Councilman, this is final plan specifications for a new irrigation system. It's a replacement of the existing system around the perimeter of Will Rogers Park. The bids are going to be received on March the 10th. The project estimate's $525,000. Upon receipt of the bids, work is expected to begin in the spring of 2021 and we'll have it complete by summer. So this is a replacement system for a system that's just older and requiring more than just repairs.
Thank you for that context. Appreciate you.
Okay. Item N3, Councilwoman Nice wanted to hear a little bit more about this.
Yes, and also number S as well. While I have this chance to ask about it, but 3, I know we have sidewalks, and I know a lot of our business owners in the area of Bricktown have been asking about some of these improvements. So I'm just curious to know what our timeline is and what we're looking at.
Thank you. This is Eric Winger, again, Public Works Director, and I can answer questions on this one. My apologies also for the typographical error on the ward. It is in Ward 7. This is a proposed project. The property owner of the gas station that's located at Reno and Lincoln, there is a section of sidewalk that is missing. So the gas station completed some construction, but from the corner of Lincoln and Reno heading west towards Bricktown, there is a short section of sidewalk that is missing. We were approached to do a partnership project that we're proposing today. With this authorization from City Council for $25,000. We would be bringing back to the council for consideration an agreement where the property owners also agreeing to participate in the cost. The property owners also engage the services of Johnson and Associates to do the design to allow this connectivity that would fill in this gap of sidewalk that is just simply missing. So there are sidewalks in Bricktown nearly to Lincoln Boulevard. This would get them completely to Lincoln, crossing Lincoln, and extending them into connecting sidewalks on Reno east of Lincoln. So today is just the approval of funding. We would bring back an agreement, hopefully at a very soon city council meeting for your consideration that would actually start the project, likely to begin this year.
Okay, I know we had talked about some other things and improvements in this area. So are we still considering those projects as far as that connection piece that, again, the developers have been asking for? And I know I've talked to the city manager about these things. So I guess I'm just, not to say I'm confused, but I'm just concerned where that conversation is right now.
Are you talking, Councilwoman Nice, are you talking about other improvements in the area? Or are you talking with I know there was one issue where we were going to have like an entry sign that we were working with some of the developers on that. Is that what you're talking about, or other improvements?
Well, it was other improvements, obviously. With that, it was some more beautification, but there was a specific ask about sidewalks. So that's why I'm just curious to know
Okay.
where we are in that conversation. If we're starting this project, is there a way for us to work through all of it instead of just stopping and then waiting months, maybe years later to finish the rest of it?
So I can respond. I am aware that the Bricktown Association is still proceeding with the recommendations and the studies that are underway for the larger connectivity projects that you mentioned, Councilwoman. This particular one just simply came from the property owner that this missing piece of sidewalk is in front of. So it potentially will assist with some of the bigger picture items, but this is a much smaller project than the one that we're now currently discussing. I have not heard back from the Bricktown Association yet to get the latest update on that one, but I can reach out to them and provide an update after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just bring it up at the next council meeting to see where we are.
Okay.
Okay. Item S, which both Councilman Cooper and Councilwoman Nice wanted to hear about.
I can also respond on this one. Again, Eric Winger, Public Works Director. The item S is a resolution approving an additional amount for a citywide traffic signal construction and replacement contract that we already have in place. This provides for necessary traffic signal items, whether it be poles that are knocked down, new signal poles that need to be constructed, items that would exceed the city crew capability. So we do rely on this contractor, Traffic and Lighting Systems, to assist us with a lot of that work when we find damages that simply just are in excess of our crew can do. And so we're seeking that approval today. The locations are going to be determined and are as needed in the upcoming year.
Thank you for that, Eric. I learned just over the weekend via an email from traffic. We had a couple residents in Crown Heights who reached out about Chartel and 50th Street, and we learned that there's some timing issues that that the residents were exactly right. Something is a bit off there, but it's the system itself. I think we have some stopgap measures, in place right now that are kind of addressing it, but that until someone actually comes over there to do something new, and that would require funding, we're going to have some issues. Is this an example where something like 50th and Chartel is included, or do we know anything about that? Is that a conversation for me to learn more about?
So I don't have information specific to Chartel and 50th, but I can also look that up and get information back to you after the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I literally just learned about it this weekend. And then when I saw this resolution, I was like, oh, what interesting timing. So just appreciate any updates on that as we learn more.
Examples of work that this contract would include: if we have a traffic accident at an intersection that completely takes out, say, the traffic control cabinet and all of the equipment that staff is also addressing and crews are addressing other issues, we may use this contract to help us make sure that we bring that damaged intersection back online more quickly, without delay. But it can relate it to anything with the traffic signal system. Traffic and Lighting Systems is just a contractor we've had on contract for a number of years. And they really do work almost as an extension of city crew. They've done a lot of work in downtown. They're very familiar with the streetcar system, things of that sort.
And this is sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Councilwoman.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, you can share your
No, go ahead.
thoughts.
I'm good.
Okay, I was just going to ask. So I'm I know, I think it was Friday, we had a meeting with some folks about some traffic signal requests. And then I've had a lot of people asking me about requests for 19th and May for installation. How does this compare to like that list of new traffic lights or other signal installation? Does this complement that or cover that at all? Or is that just a completely separate thing?
So that would be completely separate. So when we look at a completely new installation, I would share that it's possible that we could use the contractor TLS to do that work, but this funding is not, the funding that is for item S today is not specific for new traffic signal installations. This is more for repairs and needed maintenance. So when we look at new traffic signals, we look at alternate funding sources and bring those to the council separately.
Will you explain the process for those who are watching or listening, who may have questions about some of our traffic signals and how they can either report them or what they can do in order for them to get the result that they're asking for?
So we would recommend that if a resident or anyone that has a concern with a traffic signal, identify an issue, to please report that to the city's Action Center. They can use the phone number 297-2535, or they can go online on their smartphone and use the application to make that report. We have a traffic engineering office that will follow up and review and get back with that individual on what the findings are. But we would appreciate them to call those in directly. Maybe as a part two of your question, that we do get requests often for new signals or for new work to be done that's not necessarily a part of maintenance or traffic signal timing. That process is a little bit different. If there is a neighborhood or if there is a owner that is interested in possibly a new signal installation, we at okc.gov have some instructions online that they can submit a request to the Traffic Engineering Division for consideration. New signals require action of the Traffic Commission, so it's a lengthier process, but we do get that started simply with a letter or a request directly to our Traffic Engineering Office, and the Public Works Department can proceed from there with that request.
Thank you. And while I have you here, I know we're talking about specifically traffic signals, but for traffic signs, would it be the same process?
So traffic signs, yes, it would just be a request directly to our Traffic Engineering Office. And if they would like some more information, if they'll go to okc.gov, follow the links to Public Works, they'll find those instructions with the address or a phone number there that they can call for more details.
Eric, thanks for all that context. Is my memory wrong? Are these also the sort of infrastructure improvements we make with our bonds every 10 years? Like we're keeping kind of a list of where residents have reported concerns, where you all have located these concerns as well?
So I think you'll find on this memo, you'll see in the source of funds, it can be any funds that might be the general fund, CIP, MAPS, could be better streets, could be bond. So yes, it's multiple funding sources just depending on the needs. Mm-hmm. So the $3 million is really just an authorization that we can use up to $3 million under that contract from those different funding sources for those different types of work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Mayor, are you still there? Okay.
Sorry, I was muted. We're done with that item. We have item U that Councilman Cooper wanted to talk about.
Yes, and Deputy Chief Jeff Becker is on the line to be able to answer a question on this.
Hello, Deputy Chief. Good morning. Yes, I was just curious to learn a little bit more about the program or what this actually would look like, and yeah, tell us a little bit more.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This item is a periodic renewal through purchasing for the function on the department that facilitates our crime prevention and education through neighborhood associations across the city. So each of our patrol divisions has a designated police community relations officer. That's their job, to interact with the neighborhood associations. And this function assists in that. For example, currently we use Georgie Rasco and Neighborhood Alliance. And it's been a little challenging during the pandemic because we can't have these large in-person gatherings, but we've been able to work around that virtually and through other means. But really, this allows us to learn what the concerns are through neighborhood associations, develop neighborhood associations, and then educate and follow up on what those concerns are in the neighborhoods. So it's really a mechanism that allows the divisional police community relations officers to better engage with neighborhood associations.
Okay, so the wheels are turning. Thank you for that. So it strikes me, just coming off the heels of the our most recent law enforcement task force meeting, that there's some overlap here with some of the questions participants in that task force are asking our consultant 21CP to address. And how many officers are participate in this program? Like, how many we got?
Well, at the division, there's mainly one. There's one per
the 4.
Correct.
Okay. Would it be, how long have those officers been in those respective positions? Like, yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm.
Many years. It takes a while to build the relationships with the neighborhood associations. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, of the other public information outreaches that we have on the department, this is mainly focused in dealing with the neighborhood associations, helping develop them, helping survey what the concerns are. We have other efforts in the department to reach other constituencies, but those neighborhood association groups are an important link. And each of them are unique. They don't all use a common method of communicating within their groups. In a perfect world, they would, but we have to work with what they have. For example, some use old-fashioned hard copy newsletters. Some are email-based. Some have software programs. Some meet in person. Some don't meet in person. So we have to work with the resources that they bring to the table. So that's really what this does, is help us develop more effective ways of interacting with the neighborhood associations.
Yeah, again, wheels turning. Thank you for that. I'm wondering how possible it would be to connect those who've been involved in this work with the consultant, because a lot of the conversations we were having at our most recent law enforcement task force meeting was about opportunities for that kind of community policing, and how can we take what we're already doing and continue to improve upon it. And so I'd be very curious to hear the perspectives from those officers about, the way you just described, like some of the different communication styles of the neighborhood. So I'd love for our consultant in our group to kind of hear a little bit more about, where they see areas where we could strengthen this, where we could strengthen crime prevention and education. I just feel like there's some weaving in that's worth us looking into here.
That's something we can definitely have the consultants be in contact with police on this program. This part is the RFP to advertise for the services. Neighborhood Alliance, I don't know, Chief, you may know if they've had it the entire time, but I know that they've had the contract the last few years, and periodically we just come back and rebid the contract. And they were really a great conduit for helping to create these connections and helping to disseminate information and share information and help us with establishing meetings and things of that nature. So that's what this does, is helps us as kind of a conduit and connection with the neighborhood associations. And in the past, Neighborhood Alliance, and I don't know if others have bid on this, but Neighborhood Alliance has won this RFP process multiple times and has been a great partner with us. But it's just periodically we go back out and go through a new RFP process to allow for that openness and competition. And so this would just initiate that RFP, allow us to advertise that so that we could look at proposals for selected services. But we can certainly, Georgie, I think, will be connected in with this, and we can make sure that we have communications between the consultants with the officers involved in the program, as well as with the Neighborhood Alliance.
So thanks for that context, to make sure I'm hearing that right. So Neighborhood Alliance has traditionally won this this bid. For how long?
Chief, do you know how long they've been providing this service?
I cannot tell you exactly. This one will be for 1 year with 4 annual renewals. And I want to say that Neighborhood Alliance has at least had that 2 cycles. Now we adapt, as needed, as technology improves and better ways of doing things. But one other point I would make about this is, I think the lesson that we've learned of why things like this are important, when we were doing surveys in the parts of town where we've done the SAFE grant and finding out what the concerns of the public are, oftentimes they're a little bit different than what we might anticipate or what the crime trends show. So when we ask people, like in those surveys, what their biggest concerns are in their neighborhood, on their street, it's sometimes a drug house down the street, or a problem person that's in the neighborhood that's committing crimes. And sometimes those things are issues that they may or may not have called 911 to report. So that's an example that the more interaction and effective engagement that can occur, the more the police department's going to be able to actually focus on crime problems that concern people in the neighborhoods.
So
James, Mark Stone Cypher here. Can you hear me?
Councilman.
Sergeant Scala
Yeah.
attends a lot of my HOA meetings, and he does a wonderful presentation on crime prevention. He's really popular with the HOAs in my ward. And so if you'd like additional information, that may be a contact person for you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm familiar with Sergeant Scala. He works, of course, with several of our neighborhood associations, which actually raises another point related to this. As I was just kind of laying in bed thinking about a whole bunch of stuff last night, and you mentioned the so two major things I would want us to take into consideration. One is I'm just going to stick with Mayfair West as an example. So, because I know Sergeant Scala has worked with them, and as I was submitting revisions for Bike Walk OKC, I was traveling around the ward. I spoke to some of the neighborhood leaders like at Mayfair West. And, traffic calming is something that Mayfair West is very, very interested in, because the speeding which takes place on Independence. And I just feel like that's been something. I know we're very interested in a speed abatement program, a pilot program. I know that Sergeant Scala has spoken with neighborhood leaders there about that need as well. And I would just like to publicly make a push for us prioritizing, us being the city, prioritizing a traffic calming program, because Mayfair West is asking for it over and over and over again, just as an example. So I would really like that to be more of the conversation, particularly as I keep reading national stories about pedestrian fatalities and their increase. This is not a pet project for me at all. This is something I'm hearing from neighborhoods. This is something we're seeing growing trends, troubling trends. And so I would like for that program, which I believe some of our traffic commissioners are advocating pretty strongly. I'd really like to see what we can do to, if not, to make that part of this year's budget. So I just think that's critical. I think when we talk about public safety, somehow or another, this particular approach to addressing public safety has fallen off the radar. And I think it needs to be a priority. And again, the people of Mayfair West are telling me the same. So that's one example, but I'll stick with speed abatement to get to my issue number 2, which is something I was thinking about pretty hard last night. We have neighborhoods in Ward 2, no signage. Like they have no signage identifying who they are as a neighborhood. And some of the most proud moments I have ever seen have been when like a neighborhood like Douglas Edgemere or Military Park or Skyline finds itself with new signage because there's a sense of identity there, a sense of place, and thusly a sense of home. And that brings comfort. And I'm very concerned about the number of neighborhoods all across the urban core with no neighborhood name, no signage anywhere. And I know that every year when we do Neighbors Night Out, many neighborhoods are missing from the list we receive from Neighborhood Alliance. They are missing neighborhood associations. Like sometimes neighborhood associations don't even exist. And I've spoken previously with planning about this, and we know the number of reasons why that's true. We have a lot of, particularly neighborhoods with a lot of working middle class families who are working 2-3 jobs. And these are the sort of residents who the time to be able to attend meetings, to not just attend meetings, but to craft the very foundation itself of an association. That's missing. And I think it's a grave concern. I think it's a grave concern because I think when I say traffic calming was my transition, I have another neighborhood, I keep mentioning it, off of Hefner and McKinley. The speedway that McKinley becomes between Hefner and as it just wraps around the neighborhood and makes its way back out to Western. People speed through. I saw it during my election when I was knocking doors. Residents tell me about it all the time. There's a need for traffic calming there, to be sure, but Western Village is also in need of the tools that individuals like Neighborhood Alliance are providing, that I think this education services and crime prevention is providing, but they're missing that neighborhood association structure. And there are many other neighborhoods like that. And I'd like to know what we have planned to do to make sure that our neighborhoods, have that identity in terms of signage, have that opportunity to engage with OCPD, and have that opportunity to work with the Neighborhood Alliance. Something's broken is what I'm saying. Something is broken. And I'm wondering what you might say about that, Deputy Chief Lake. What have you noticed? If I'm lingering on this, because I actually do think this is a very, very important issue. So I'm just curious what you've learned in those instances, why those neighborhoods, we haven't been able to bring some of them online, and what
Getting
we
that static again.
do.
Well, Councilman, I would say I agree with you that encouraging a sense of identity among people in the neighborhoods that they live is very important.
Mm-hmm.
We have to paint an image and a reality that there's always improvements that can be made. And, the police can't do it themselves. The neighborhoods can't do it themselves. We have to work together with them. And that's part of what this function does is provide training to groups in neighborhoods where associations are not yet developed, and also strengthen the ones that are already there. Because, you know, these are made up of essentially volunteers, people who care in neighborhoods, and they have to be supported. They have to be shown the infrastructure of maintaining a neighborhood association. And, you know, sometimes there can be an issue in a neighborhood that people feel strongly about, and it creates issues. And keeping a neighborhood association healthy and vibrant and strong, it doesn't happen by itself, you know. So this helps provide infrastructure, training, bylaws, training for members. And it's really kind of the glue between the police department and the neighborhood associations to make them vibrant entities. And I think that, you know, we've accomplished something when we learn about a problem in a neighborhood. We work with the people who live there. We use the resources of the city to implement change, and the people that live there see the result, and they feel empowered to become involved in strengthening things even more. And you can see where that's happened in certain neighborhoods across the city. But I agree with you. There's work to be done. We haven't arrived where we want to be yet. There's room for improvement.
Councilman, I would add to that too, that we have an additional contract with Neighborhood Alliance to the planning department that really focuses more on that neighborhood development and helping them as they're reaching out into neighborhoods to help them get organized or help them with different issues that they need. That goes beyond just this contract. You know, this contract's primarily that relationship with the police department and communications with the neighbors and the neighborhood association. As Chief Becker said, their organization and coordination helps with that communication effort, but there is another contract that we have that helps even more so in promoting those neighborhoods and neighborhood associations.
Yeah, I appreciate both the context. I think this is why it's going to be very important for the officers who've been dedicated to this work with our neighborhoods, participate in those conversations with the task force, because again, like something's broken. Like there are neighborhoods missing. Like, yeah, there might be 2 contracts here, but we have entire neighborhoods without associations, and that's different than an HOA. That is different. We are talking neighborhoods. They're not paying members. That wouldn't even be a possibility in some of these neighborhoods, to be honest. Or it'd be by the skin of their teeth. Their contributions would be their time and their knowledge. And I don't know, y'all, like what can I'm just saying we need to figure out how we look where those neighborhoods without those associations exist. And we need to start working to bring them the best tools we got to get them up to speed. And the reason why I'm bringing it up during this police conversation is because we also know that a lot of those neighborhoods are the ones not only lacking a neighborhood association, but they are disconnected from often our city government. They're often the ones experiencing the high crime rates, whether it is speedways through their neighborhoods, or it's assaults, or it's whatever the crime might be. That's why I'm bringing it up right now. And I actually, so that's what I want to say about that. And I also want to add that I'm really worried about all of our neighborhoods, but especially those without that infrastructure because of the pandemic and the mental health toll that this is taking on everybody. So I would just appreciate, as we leave this meeting, to kind of hear more from everybody about what we can do. And sign me up, but what we can do to get those neighborhoods that are offline right now with neighborhood associations online, connected with the folk at OCPD who are dedicated to the work that they're doing, and to whoever gets this contract, and then finally Neighborhood Alliance more generally. Thank you.
I have a question. When this is out, as far as the advertisement, can we ensure that I just want to make sure I receive it, because I have some other groups that I would like to get this in front of to see if maybe we can look at maybe some different folks to respond as far as just to get a holistic approach for people to respond to this proposal.
Sure. If you'll provide that information, or we can make sure we get it to you so you can get it out. And we're also glad to reach out to anyone that if we get their contact information to share the RFP.
Thank you.
Okay. If we're done with that item, there were no other items that anybody wished to speak about, so we can take a motion in a second on the consent docket.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second.
All right, if everyone would cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
I vote yes on the consent docket.
All right, I vote aye as well.
Passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, Amy. Now we are at item 8, the concurrence docket. We have items A through F we can take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. I can see, Amy, I'm not in a PrimeGov yet, but I can see the screen, so I can I can see what you've shared. So cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
I vote yes on the concurrence docket.
All right, I vote aye as well.
The motion passed.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Amy. All right, now we're at item 9, items requiring separate votes. I believe, Mr. City Manager, I'm correct, items A, B, and C were all deferred.
That is correct.
So we are on item D. This is an ordinance on final hearing relating to tobacco and vaping. We had a previous presentation on this proposed ordinance change. Then we had a public hearing on it. And today is potential final consideration. What does the council wish to do? Well, it looks like we've already got a motion and oh no, maybe not. If you want to make a motion, go ahead and feel free to do so on PrimeGov. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
Vote yes.
I wish to vote yes as well. All right, passes unanimously. Okay, item 9E. This is a public hearing regarding an ordinance change that is proposed relating to parking and how parking interacts with bicycle lanes. We had a presentation on this at our last meeting. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
No.
All right, we will now close this public hearing and move on to item F. This is an ordinance to be introduced and adopted with an emergency today. It is amending Chapter 55 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code by adopting a new section 5556, authorizing temporary suspension of certain charges during emergency. City Manager, I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, sir. Chris Browning, our Utilities Director, is with us to make provide a quick presentation on the context of this ordinance.
Good morning. The Oklahoma City Municipal Ordinance Section 55-79 provides in part that posting of written notices will result in the addition of notice charges to the unpaid bill each time such notice is posted. Also, if water service is to be reestablished, a restart charge will be added to the bill. And then further, the water service shall not be turned on until the total amount of the bill, the notice charges, and the restart charge have been paid. By using the word shall or will, these ordinances create a mandatory charge that we cannot curtail. City ordinance with mandatory requirements or directives are not amendable administratively. So we're asking City Council to consider amending the ordinance to allow the city manager or designee to waive the notice, the disconnection, reconnection, and late fees as appropriate during an emergency declared by either the mayor or city council. So right now, we're not disconnecting water service for non-payment, but we will be doing that shortly. And what we don't want to do is continue adding additional fees to folks who are having a hard time paying their water bill. So we ask that you all consider amending this ordinance as an emergency. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Chris?
Chris, just one more time. You were saying that during this period that those extra fees, explain this back to me again, because, and the reason why I say that, we had someone on social media a couple weeks ago accusing the council of voting to renew the water shutoffs, and we did not. And I just wanted to make sure that whatever we're about to vote on here, I want to make sure I have a clear understanding of it, please.
So Councilman, right now, the ordinance states that if you are late and we're going to disconnect your water, we have to give you a notice. And we have to charge you a fee for going out to your house to give you that notice. Also, there's a fee to disconnect your water service and a fee to reconnect your water service when payment has been made to reestablish the service. Either payment or an arrangement has been made, and then we go reestablish your service. So what we're trying to do is waive those fees under an emergency so that we don't further compound the issues that are occurring during the emergency, like the pandemic, where we're not disconnecting water when people can't pay their bills. So we're asking to allow the city manager the ability to temporarily waive those fees when such an emergency is declared by city council or the mayor.
Yeah, thank you so much for that clarification. Sometimes people need to hear that extra little bit. I just happen to be one of them right now, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, when it's appropriate, I'd like to move the item, and also if it's passed, move it as an emergency.
Okay. Well, if we have the ability on PrimeGov to do that, then feel free to avail yourself of that option. All right, we have a motion and a second for adoption of the ordinance.
I was just trying to second that, Councilman Stonecipher. Wasn't trying to one-up you there. I don't know.
So cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
Vote yes.
All right, I vote aye as well. Passes unanimously. And then I know Councilman Stonecipher would eagerly like to make the motion for the emergency as well. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
Vote yes.
I vote aye as well. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on item 9G1. This is the public hearing for the dilapidated structures here listed, except for those struck at the beginning of the meeting. I can't help but notice we do have item C here. Councilwoman Nice, are you ready to move forward with that?
Yes, I'm not, I have a few more. As you see, I have quite a few of them on here. So obviously that gives me great pause. So I do want to defer item D, F, and K. I understand these particular property owners, as well as this another one. Okay, never mind. It is one of these listed. D, F, and K. The property owners have been in touch with our development services office. So I do want to defer those.
Okay, I think we can handle that with one motion. So there is a motion, if we can give Councilwoman Nice the ability to do that on PrimeGov, to defer items D, F, and K to our next meeting, 2 weeks from today. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote on the deferral?
Move to defer.
I vote aye as well. Passes unanimously. Okay, we're back on the public hearing. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak under the public hearing for item 9G1?
No, Mayor.
Okay, so we're with the remaining items that have not been struck or deferred. If there is no other comment, we would entertain a motion to adopt the resolution found at 9G2. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
Aye.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. Passes unanimously. All right, now we're at 9H1. Councilwoman Nice, are there any items on here that were also needed to be deferred?
I don't see any.
Okay,
They may be in the other.
okay. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
No, they have not.
Okay,
Nikki, did you see item C? That's the same as above at 1740 East Eubanks.
I didn't defer that item.
yeah, that one was not deferred, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, no one having signed up to speak and no deferrals, then we would entertain a motion to adopt a resolution found at 9H2 declaring that the structures are unsecured except for those previously struck. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
Vote aye.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. Passes unanimously. All right, now we're at 9I1. This is the public hearing regarding the abandoned structures.
There is one on here, Mayor.
Okay, which one is that?
Item number F, as in Frank.
Okay,
And I'm looking to see if, I think that was the only one.
okay. So
The-
Councilwoman Nice would like to make a motion to defer item 9I1F
Correct.
for 2 weeks to the next meeting. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote on the deferral?
Move to defer.
Thank you. I vote for the deferral as well. Passes unanimously. We're now back on the public hearing for item 9I1. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, Mayor, they have not.
All right, so we will now close the hearing and move to 9I2, the resolution declaring that the structures are abandoned, except for those previously struck or deferred. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
Move aye.
All right, I vote aye as well. Passes unanimously. Okay, now we're at 9J1. This is a public hearing regarding a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving the allocation of general obligation limited tax proceeds and or investment proceeds. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
No, they have not.
Okay. Well, that brings us to item 9J2, which is the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving the allocation of GO limited tax proceeds in an amount of $300,000 to provide for certain job creation, economic development incentives to Corkin Incorporated, et cetera. I believe we had a presentation on this at the last meeting. Is there any other comment from council? If not, we could take a motion.
I would.
I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Okay, yes, sure. Go ahead, Councilman
Corkin-
McAtee, and then it sounded like Councilman Cooper after that.
Corkin is an organization that has been a good citizen of Oklahoma City for a long, long time. They used to have a manufacturing facility out on West 36th Street. They're a great addition to have their home office now here. And so I heartily endorse it and welcome back.
All right, Councilman Cooper, you had something to say?
Yeah, I was just curious because it's in Ward 7. I'd love to hear from Councilwoman Nice and her perspective on this item.
Okay. Well, that's her right.
If you
Councilwoman Nice?
want to speak on it, that's fine. I tend to want to hear from the folk in their wards, but if not, that's okay. No pressure.
No, I appreciate that. I was actually waiting for everyone else to speak since everyone had jumped in there so quick. But I will say that I had a wonderful conversation with the gentleman, Mr. Laszlo, and I hope I said his name correctly, last week. And we talked about some of those interests and ways we can work together to bring public transportation is obviously going to be one of our concerns right now. Connectivity in this area to make sure we can get people to the jobs that maybe have to rely on public transportation. So we're working through that with Mr. Fairbrush. So I appreciate him for helping me in that area. And also looking at how we can incorporate job opportunities in different parts of our community and their commitment to be engaged in the community. So, and I know we had a question at our last meeting about if they hire felons, and I did get some feedback today that they do not initially ask about that. It may come up after when they do a background check. So, and they have hired folks who have had backgrounds of such, and it's a case-by-case basis. So we talked about that as well. So I'm very comfortable, and I am also excited about the opportunities that can be developed from this company. So I agree. Welcome to our area of the community, and looking forward to partnering and seeing how we can best serve each other in our respective areas.
All right, thank you. Well, if there's no other comment, we could take a motion. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote?
Aye.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. Passes 7-1. Okay, that brings us to item 9K1. This is the public hearing regarding substantial amendment to the FY 2021 first year annual action plan. I'm going to go back to the public hearing after we hear a presentation on this. Mr. City Manager, I believe we've got that, right?
Yes, sir. So we have Chris Varga is on the line with us. He's our planning manager that manages the grant programs, and he'll give us a quick presentation on this amendment.
Good morning. This is Chris Varga from the Housing and Community Development Division Manager in the Planning Department. The item that we're presenting to you today, the reason for the item is that Restore Food, a nonprofit community-based organization, requested $560,000 of community development block grant funds in support of the development of food market to be located at 1708 Northwest East 23rd Street. The funding request would be eligible as a CDBG special economic development activity. However, the city's current consolidated plan does not include a funding line for a special economic development program. So when we add a new program to the consolidated plan, it's considered a significant plan amendment, which requires a public hearing and opportunity for comment. The council item today would authorize staff to modify the consolidated plan to add the special economic development program and to move funds, $560,000 of uncommitted funds to the program line. And if this action passes, a proposed funding agreement would become before you at a later date. A little bit of background: Restore Food has requested this funding to support conversion of a small 6,000 square foot white box commercial space located at 1708 Northeast 23rd. that's between Kellam and Rhode Island into an express market, cafe, and kitchen to provide fresh food options to Northeast Oklahoma City residents who live in part of an area that's identified as a food desert. Restore Food has, as part of their proposal to us, entered into a management service agreement with Homeland Grocery as an operational partner, and a lease agreement with the owner of the space, and an agreement with Oklahoma City Urban Renewal Authority to lease adjacent land for parking. So if the amendment is approved, a proposed funding agreement would come to council at a later date. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Mayor, this is
Yeah.
David Greenwell.
Mhm.
I've got a question. Chris, what's the percentage of floor space designated for the groceries versus the other uses?
I believe it's relatively small. I think it's around 5,000 square feet is for the grocery portion.
And then 1,000 for the other uses?
Yeah, for the cafe. Yeah, it's a small cafe.
And no fried foods, right?
I don't know the menu just yet, but we can look into that when we review their proposal.
Okay.
Having food options is really what the goal is. I think of being creative as far as how this new possibility is being created for our community can be mimicked across the rest of our city is I think what we would strive for us to do in order to represent other areas that are considered food deserts, because I want to continue to specify that Northeast Oklahoma City is not the only food desert in our city. There are plenty of other areas that are food insecure and need food access. And this is one of the ways we are able to combat the food access as far as our community is concerned in this area. And we hope that others will be able to do the same in other parts of our city. So I want to say to our young people whose vision this was a vision of young people who were concerned and wanted to do something as well. And this is really their baby as far as being able to put their hands and thoughts and ideas together with architects. So this store has been designed by young people in the community that are interns at Restore. And we are excited about what is to come as far as the possibilities and endless sustainability of feeding our community.
Okay.
I'll just add that when I began my semester at OCU this year, and we're reading Boomtown and watching the Renaissance documentary from PBS about the Italian Renaissance. And I asked the students, what are your concerns for the area and hopes for the city? Just like I did when I was knocking doors. And top 5 was this food desert concern. That they see that lack and food insecurity, and they're especially worried about it right to the east of OCU. They're at on the east side in Ward 7, and that's encouraging to know that our students are thinking outside of just what's immediately in their backyard, and so that's really good. Yeah, I'll leave it there for now because that's all I have to say. Thanks.
I am curious why fried food matters.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of my concern too.
I have to jump off. I'm handing the chair of the meeting over to Councilman Greenwell, but please continue. Thanks.
Then maybe he can answer that. I'll wait.
Councilman Greenwell. I'm not sure he's got a connection right now. He is on.
He's in his office.
He appears to
Councilman
be
Greenwell.
looking at his phone.
I'm just not sure that he can hear us right now.
He does appear to be unmuted though. Oh, now he's not.
And I will say 500 square foot is a cafe and kitchen, and 6,000 square foot is grocery. So I do
Yeah.
have.
So Councilman Stone, can you step in as vice mayor and continue the meeting, moving the meeting on? We'll try to get connection with Councilman Greenwell.
Absolutely. I was just trying to see what flipped up there on the screen.
So you got our
Councilwoman
motion.
Nice, I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer your question on that.
Don't worry,
Any
I'm
other
going to ask
thought?
it again.
That's fine. I still won't be able to answer.
I know you
Item,
can. Okay.
So any more discussion on item 9K? No? And Amy, has anyone signed up to speak at the public hearing?
No, they have not.
Thank you. With that, I think we can take a motion on 9K2. All right, we have a first and a second. Please
I
cast your
also vote
votes.
yes.
Councilman McAtee votes aye. And the item passes unanimously. That brings us to item L1, public hearing regarding the real estate acquisition agreement, with Oklahoma City Urban Renewal Authority. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they have not.
Thank you. Any other comments from council on this item?
Yes, I think one of the questions that I still have not received full clarification on is how much land this is.
That was on JFK. Amanda Carpenter is on, and she's going to get that information. I know that Kathy wasn't able to be with us today.
Mr. Chairman, Doug Pepper, Parks and Recreation. The property that is being sold is to the east of the parking lot at JFK Park, and it's less than, I believe it's less than an acre in size. It's about 25 foot wide, going from southeast 17th to where it meets with the school property fence line.
Thank you. I guess my concern in asking that is for some reason I can't get a definite of how much land this is, and clearly that's quite concerning.
Councilwoman,
Yes.
I have the survey. It is 0.65 acres. That's 28,200 square feet. It's a piece of property 75 by approximately 376.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, with no other comments, I will take a motion on item 9L2.
I vote yes.
We have a first and a second. Councilman McAtee votes aye. And the item passes 6-1. Brings us to item 9M. This is a resolution setting a public hearing date of March 2nd for proposed amendment to the 2021 budget, the Capital Improvement Projects Fund listed below. Any comments from council on this item?
And good morning.
If not, I'll take a motion. Oh, hey, Doug.
Vice Mayor, yeah, this is Doug Dowler, Budget Director for the city. I'd be happy to go through those changes or just answer questions if you have any on those.
Any questions from council? If not, I'll take a motion.
I vote aye.
All right, cast your votes. Councilman McAtee votes aye. And it passes unanimously. Brings us to item 9N1, a public hearing regarding the June 16th City Council resolution approving fire, other sales tax expenditures or projects.
And Vice Mayor, this is, or Vice Mayor, I guess, Councilman Stone, this is an item that is a companion item to the budget amendment. On the budget amendment item, and we'll do a presentation at the next council meeting, but on the budget amendment item, there's $1 million use of fund balance from the fire sales tax fund. And that is the resolution, the public safety sales tax resolution is required to also authorize this funding. And so that will align with the budget amendment. Chief Gelly is online. If anyone has any questions, that he can answer those questions. And I'm sorry, it's $1 million budget amendment for the fire sales tax fund, and it allows for some renovations at Station 1.
Any questions from council on this item? All right, with that, I'll take a motion on item N2, which is the resolution. Cast your votes. And it's passed unanimously. Brings us to the item 901, the resolution approving the request for salary continuation for Major Marcus Paul Williams. I'll take a motion, or we could enter into executive session. We have a motion and a second.
Approve.
And it passes unanimously. Brings us to item 10A, claims recommended for approval, other than those struck previously.
Yes, P.
Oh, we need item P.
What?
P.
Oh, P, I'm
Item
sorry.
P.
Item 9P, enter into executive session to discuss the pending collective bargaining negotiations. I'll take a motion.
At the appropriate time, I'll move to enter into executive session.
All right, we have a first and a second. Please cast
I
your
approve
votes.
moving into executive session.
Councilperson Stone Pfeiffer, how do you wish to vote?
Yes, please.
And that is passed unanimously. All right, back to item 10A. 1, claims recommended for approval. I'll take a motion.
I think this was deferred. Is
I
that right?
thought item B was still up. Is that incorrect?
Correct.
That's correct.
So item B is still valid?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a motion on this item. We have a first and a second. Please cast your votes.
I move to approve.
And the item is passed unanimously. Brings us to item 11, items from council. And we will start with Ward 2, Councilman Cooper.
Yes, and I will start with congratulating the honorable councilman from Ward 4 for his re-election. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I would also like to say thank you to everyone involved with helping us host last week's virtual town hall regarding the city of OKC's housing repair and home ownership programs. For anyone who missed those virtual town halls, those are available on our social media page for the city of OKC. They're also available on my Instagram and Facebook, James for OKC. I specifically want to thank Chad Davidson, Chris Varga, Jeff Butler, Kirsty Yeager, Zach Nash, Debbie Martin, Boyd Fulton. Just really, really appreciate you all working to coordinate such an important conversation. Very well attended. Very informative, and I would say to anybody out there who has home repairs and you feel like they are outside of your financial scope, to please view that that video. It's about an hour. Tried to keep it the length of a really good PBS NewsHour segment. It comes with slides to walk you through the particulars of those programs, as well as contact information. So many residents reached out to me both before and after the town hall to say how thankful they were that we have those programs as a city and that a counselor was promoting them. And I was honored to do it, and I'm going to keep bringing up those programs because I think they're very, very important. Again, just circling back to that conversation I was saying earlier with neighborhood associations, particularly those within the urban core, those we have a lot of folk here who would love to be able to connect with those programs. I also wanted to say thank you to everyone involved in helping us coordinate the Earned Income Tax Credit virtual town hall. OKC Tax Help, Councilwoman Nice, Councilwoman Hammond, again, council staff, Debbie Martin and Boyd Fulton, and anybody else who helped with that. I believe Christy and Zach once more with public information. And if I missed anybody, that's not out of malice, that is out of the winter weather dissipating my brain resources. But that's a very important virtual town hall, which is also available on the City of OKC's social media pages. It is also available again on my Instagram and Facebook. And I just want to thank everyone for their time with that as well. Super informative. We have a lot of our taxpayer dollars that have made their way to Washington, D.C. that it turns out need to come back home to the pockets of working families. So that's an opportunity to learn more about how you might qualify for a tax credit of up to $6,500, $6,600, particularly if you are a resident with children. So I want to thank everyone for helping us spread the word about that. And then city manager, we had someone reach out to us. I'm just curious if you might have any feedback on this. Do we know, and maybe utilities can speak to this, I'm not sure. Someone reached out, everyone right now during the, unprecedented winter weather we're experiencing, we're all having to drip water from the pipes in our homes. And someone reached out about looming water bills, particularly for residents who might struggle from paycheck to paycheck, but especially our seniors. And I'm just wondering, are we having any conversation about mitigating the cost of those bills facing, again, our most vulnerable and in particular our seniors?
Chris Browning is still on the line. I could let him respond to that. I know we've got utility assistance program that is still out there through CARES funds. And then also with the new programs that will be coming with the resident assistance also includes some utility assistance. We don't have a specific program right now in dealing just with the fact of people having to drip their faucets and use a little bit more water. I don't believe that should be significant, but I'll let Chris speak to that if he's still on the line. But it really shouldn't be a significant impact on bills with just dripping faucets.
Good morning again, Councilman. This is Chris Browning. We have been looking into the request. Unfortunately, state law does not allow us to not charge for water used. We have to charge for the water. But again, as Craig indicated, we do have programs to help those people who are having a difficult time paying for the water bill through the Salvation Army. So we will certainly help people get assistance if they'll
Chris, I think we lost you.
Can you hear me now?
I could hear him. Was I in my own world?
I hear him as well.
Okay. So we will need to charge people for the water they're using, but we will certainly help them with assistance if they'll call us when they get their water bills.
Thank you for that, Chris. I appreciate that backstory. I didn't know that particular state statute on that, so it's very.
Yes, sir. That would be considered offering a gratuity, and
Okay.
we can't do that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that clarification.
Yes.
I know that was a concern. A resident sent an email to our office over the weekend. Okay, and then so this is, I think, my last opportunity to speak about Black History Month in terms of this calendar month. First, I just want to say happy Black History Month to everybody. I also want to say, honestly, this might be the time for those of us who think we know Black history, quite frankly, for those of us who think we know American history, to remember that ours is a journey through knowledge, and we have an opportunity to keep an open mind and learn new things. And I would challenge everybody out there. You've heard, at least I have heard my entire life, some stereotypes that I would argue are very destructive, particularly to this notion of the theme this year for Black History Month, the family, for instance. I've heard for years the sort of stereotype of the absent Black father, for instance. And many people will put at the feet of all social ills that absence. And I would encourage people to just do a little bit of research into that, not on Uncle Joe's blog, but maybe dig into some scholarly research on that topic, because there have been several writers now who have used research. For instance, the New York Times columnist, Charles Blow, using research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that had showed that 71.5% of Black non-Hispanic children in 2013 were born to unmarried women, compared to 29.3% of white non-Hispanic. But, and this is critical, but as Josh Lebs pointed out in his new book, All In, 2.5 million of the 4.2 million Black fathers, or about 59.5%, live with their children. Leb's numbers suggest that it is not true then, as the CD figures suggest, that 71.5% of Black dads are absent from their homes, but rather many of them are simply unmarried. And when Black fathers do live with their children, they're just as, if not more likely, to be involved in their kids' everyday lives. Blow cited CDC data that showed Black fathers are more likely than even their white and Hispanic counterparts to feed, eat with, bathe, diaper, dress, play with, and read to their children on a daily basis. This is important because so many people, and I was just quoting from Vox, by the way. You can find that article for yourself. It is called Debunking the Most Pervasive Myth About Black Fatherhood. And I mention that particular myth because if you're like me, you have heard, again, I've heard it all of my life, that is at the root of what ails so much of our social ills. And it turns out it's a myth. And I would argue it's a myth to derail the real conversations we need to be having. So I just want to take a moment to honor those fathers who are part of their children's lives, who eat with them, bathe, make sure they're bathed, these sorts of things, and make sure they have food, make sure they have their basic Maslow hierarchy of needs, because we have data telling us that those fathers are there doing that work. And that is an important thing, that the next time we're at a party, when the pandemic is over, next time we're at dinner conversations and someone uses that myth, give them the data and undo that myth, because it's a dangerous one. It's a dangerous one. It's part of the stereotype that has persisted, that Black men are lazy. That's the connective thread there. And in this particular Black History Month, where we are talking about the significance and the history and the resilience of the Black family, it's important that we start poking holes in that myth right there. Start poking holes in that myth. So that's something I always think about. It's time that we address that. I also would like to say that, and it's a surreal experience, but I'm reflecting a lot on the last trip I took before the pandemic, and it was to attend a National League of Cities conference. And the Honorable Ward 7 Councilwoman Nikki Nice and I attended. And there she advocated for access to grocery stores with healthy foods. That was when we met with Congresswoman Kendra Horn. I was advocating for infrastructure investments to complement what we've done with Better Street, Safer City in 2017 and what we've done with MAPS 4, whether that is more investments in good paying jobs that rebuild our sidewalks, repave our residential and arterial streets, address our just so much drainage needs await this city. And really, we're seeing right now, whether it was the ice storm in October, the weather right now facing us. I saw where State Representative Forrest Bennett had tweeted that our very infrastructure is experiencing a stress test right now. And I have to tell you, we're not passing. we are, if we are passing, we're passing with that old D minus, D plus, maybe the C. And I just think that is part of a decades long narrative that told us that government is bad, government is the problem. And when we told people that, we told them to keep their tax dollars in their pockets. And we did not tell the people that those tax dollars were the very things that were going to fund the government services and the infrastructure. And so now we have people who are very frustrated about their infrastructure needs. And I would say to them, me too. And I hear you. And I need you to know that this has been a decades long campaign to tell you that government is your enemy. And I'm here to tell you that governments may err, but it is better, at least as someone who's reading Dante right now and the Divine Comedy, Dante says that the sins of the cold-blooded are weighted a bit differently than the sins of the warm-hearted. And government must always try to be the warm-hearted, not frozen in the iciness of indifference. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. I just always want the people of Ward 2 to know that I will always and have always advocated for as much infrastructure improvements as possible. I'm thankful for what we set in motion for Better Street, Safer City, but I'm going to be advocating, as I did last May, when I suggested that the next Corona relief package send revenue relief to our municipalities and our states for lost revenue we've experienced. I'm going to keep advocating that this next relief package address that, so that we do not have to spare a moment in implementing MAPS 4 and those investments in our neighborhoods that voters approved, not a moment. And I'll also be advocating for whatever major infrastructure investments this new administration wants to set in motion, so that we can have our people put back to work rebuilding our city and our neighborhoods. My final thing I would like to say about Black History Month is there's someone who we often overlook. I think Councilman Stonecipher will appreciate this as a student of history. I suspect some others around the horseshoe will as well. Mark, do you happen to know the name Bayard Rustin? Okay, so I did not know who he was either. It's spelled B-A-Y-A-R-D, Rustin. And there's a wonderful PBS article on him. And the reason he's in so many ways been lost to history, but guess what? When you pull up the PBS site, it's under an article called "Who Designed the March on Washington?" It was him. He did it. He worked with Martin Luther King to organize that very famous march that gives us that just global "I have a dream" rallying cry. And for me, it was important when I finally learned who he was about a little over 10 years ago, almost a dozen years, because he was also LGBTQ. And at the time, the movement, was still struggling. The civil rights movement was still struggling with what is the role of women in the organization, in the movement? What is the role of LGBTQ folk? And that was a struggle, because at the time, as you all might remember, Senator Joseph McCarthy and others were leading a campaign to make sure that people who were LGBTQ were not a part of the government. Where literally the argument was that they could be blackmailed because of their attractions to people of the same sex. And so there was this sort of what was called the lavender scare, this idea that gay people are a threat to the nation itself. And so Bayard found himself, unfortunately, largely removed from those conversations, but he worked side by side with Dr. King, and Dr. King loved him as a fellow human being. And it really means a lot to me as somebody who is biracial, an Oklahoman, someone who believes in human rights and civil rights, to know that someone else who is LGBTQ stood right beside one of the most important voices our country has ever produced, and to know that they loved each other with brotherly love really means a lot to me. So anyway, he's on my mind. You all can explore more. Mark, I know you're a student of history, and I know you like to offer some people back to me, and I appreciate that conversation. And I also want to say thank you to Councilwoman Nice for always, anytime that name comes up, she always likes to go a little bit further with me on that conversation as well. So with that, I'll just say Happy Black History Month, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have returned, and we are now on Ward 3. Larry, do you have anything? You are muted, but I'm going to, yeah.
I'm going to unmute. I'm unmuted. No, thank you. Thank you for asking.
All right. Thank you. Ward 4.
I'm good, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And congratulations again on your reelection. Ward 5.
Mayor, thank you. I do have a question. I understand you may have been without electricity this morning.
I was. It has returned, but I was.
Yeah, we were too, for 90 minutes, which is much better than the week-long period that we were out of electricity at the end of October, first part of November. I would like to see if we could get some information from OG&E as to, it's a fine distinction. The reason for the rolling outages, is it based upon a limited amount of supply of electricity, or is it due to the distribution network that they currently have? And so if it's a supply of electricity, then you would say, looks like they need to build more utility plants to create more electricity. If it's a distribution problem, it sounds like a focus needs to be placed on increasing, making the distribution system more robust to be able to handle the distribution of electricity. Either way, they are now going through their needs analysis with the Corporation Commission. And I would certainly like to have some input, if we can get it, a response from OG&E as to the need for these rolling outages. So that's basically it. Again,
so Councilman, we'll work with it.
A full day, we can certainly get by with that. But they do have a requirement, since they are a monopoly, that if they're going to be the sole source of electricity, then we should be able to depend on, a level of service that does not include these types of disruptions, both now and again last fall. Anticipate what's going to happen in July and August in terms of demands on electricity. A lot of the homes in Oklahoma are use natural gas in terms of energy, but in terms of air conditioning, it's it's entirely electricity as far as I understand. So if they're having either supply or distribution problems, again, if they want to be the monopoly that the legislature has provided for them, in return, I think they should commit to a stable source of electricity for their customers. Thank you.
So Councilman, we'll work to get an answer for you on that. I do understand from communication that we've had with them that this isn't just an OG&E issue, it's a regional issue with the extreme cold weather, that I think there's been natural gas, availability of natural gas, as well as with some of their other alternative sources being limited with, I know the wind power, some limitations with the wind power as well. We'll work to get some answers, but I don't believe it is distribution issues. I think it's more on the availability of the power sources, and it's regional. It's not just OG&E. I know it's affected down in Texas as well, and is related back to the extreme cold weather. So we'll make sure and touch base with them and try to get a more complete answer.
Yeah, no, I would have suspected the same thing, Craig, because I understand how we share energy within a region. You know, that grid is designed so when Arkansas needs more electricity, we can shift our usage over to them and all this. Let's just confirm that it is just a supply issue and the reasons why there's a supply issue. And if it's resolved with an increase in the, I'm going to use a very common term, but the number of utility plants, then I suspect the demand on the use of electricity will not go down or even stay static. It will just continue to increase. And are they, you know, making plans to be able to provide a steady source of reliable electricity, you know, well into the future? Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 6.
Yes, thank you. I just have two things. I think my first is related to the issues with OG&E and power rolling blackouts. And I'm just curious if there's been discussions or what we can be doing to be communicating with different commercial and business entities. I'm thinking about a lot of our buildings downtown that maybe don't need all of the lights on. Maybe they need to keep some heat on and et cetera. But if nothing else, our city buildings, what we can be doing to decrease usage so that we can keep more residents in there who are probably, I would assume, in their homes right now with power.
Yeah, so we are, with our city buildings, we've encouraged employees to work from home, more employees to work from home. We've allowed liberal leave for the next couple of days. And also we are reducing the temperature on our buildings, as well as trying to do what we can, encouraging employees to try to do what they can, you know, keeping lights off where we can and things like that, to try to conserve as much power as we can, so that we're in line with, you know, exactly what OG&E is asking residents to do as well.
And is that also with city-owned buildings that are operated by a private entity?
We are working with those partners. Depending on if they have an event happening or not, we're working with all those partners to have communications with them to try to do the same thing.
Thank you. The only other thing I wanted to mention is just a huge thank you to all of the city staff, community partners, and volunteers who've been working to get folks who live outside into shelter and out of the cold. I know between our planning department with Jared and Stacy and all of the other folks on the city side that work to help coordinate all of that, to even now with our parks department getting involved with the warming center at the Red Andrews Municipal Gym. Just want to just give a shout out to all those staff who are working so hard and have been working to plan for events like this, and also just to all of those community partners, Nappy Roots and Tribe Gym, who've opened up their facilities and locations to folks to just kind of help people be able to spread out or stay in the area that they typically are. not have to necessarily make a trek across town. But also, and similarly with Joe's Addiction down on the southeast side, but also just to Homeless Alliance and their staff for everything they're doing with the Willard Center right now. In so many ways doing it for no recognition. They're just trying to save lives and keep people safe and well throughout this. So I just want to say thank you to all of the partners. And I know I'm missing folks, but that I think speaks to how many people have been coming together to make this happen. I know the folks at Tribe Gym are looking for volunteers throughout the rest of the week to be able to keep their doors open for folks. And I was able to go volunteer there yesterday, and I'm just incredibly thankful for those spaces that just knew they had a space that they could. They even have folks who are without power who are staying over there, so they can be someplace warm and be able to plug in their phones and stay in contact with their family and such. So just thank you to everyone. And yeah, if you're interested in volunteering at any of those places, just feel free to get in touch with me. Word 6 at okc.gov is probably the best way to do that. And I'm happy to get you in touch with those folks.
Okay, thank you. Ward 7.
Yes, I just want to piggyback off of what we just heard from Councilwoman Hammond and mention Northeast Community and Cultural Center as well. As I know that's another place where they have been able to shelter those who have been experiencing homelessness or just in shelter, and they've been doing that for quite some time. I just want for us to be aware of our implicit and explicit bias when we speak of things in communities, especially dealing with resources. And not only is the area of Northeast Oklahoma City deemed the food desert, as everyone continues to reference, but it is a resource desert. So there are quite a few different things and components as to why we have some of the health outcomes, not fried food. So I think that's the one of the things we need to continue to be aware of, what we're saying and how we say it, because in particular, this area will be a place of refuge to learn and understand how to cook healthier foods, and how we all can work together to feed ourselves with organic fruits and vegetables, and just being able to provide resources again in the areas of Northeast Oklahoma City. And not to mention, we're going to have a grocery store that is coming that will be selling hot foods. So if that's a place you want to go, you can go there. How about that? I do want to make mention of Black History Month as we continue to talk about it, Black Restaurant Week. So if you want to, please make sure you download your bingo card. You can head on over to okcblackeats.com and fill out that bingo card and take a picture of all of those Black restaurants for Black History Month. But I would encourage everyone, let's not just support them in the month of February, let's support them all year long. But it's good to be able to know all of the places that do exist for us to be able to support. And it's always good to try new foods in our city and in our communities, in places that we probably haven't been before. So I would encourage that. Also, as we continue to speak about things that are happening for Black History Month, I know, although today I don't believe they're open, but the Myriad Gardens, they currently have an exhibit that you can experience. It's called Still Here, the Cosmology of Black Resilience. It's an interdisciplinary art exhibition that is going on through March 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. And if you missed out on the Fresh Paint mural project that was in front of the ballpark, it is now housed in the Myriad Gardens as well. So you can see two different projects and also see some talented young African-American artists of color who want to display their art and speak their truth in their murals and their pieces. So very excited about that. Also, I want you to know about Dead Center too. They are also celebrating Black History Month with one film. It's called Birdie, and they also have some free shorts for you to watch. So I would encourage everyone to watch the shorts because I got to see those last year, and they are really, really good, and all very different in the realm of their work. Also, congratulations. I want to say thank you and congratulations to Millwood Public Schools. On Friday, they hosted a vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine clinic in their field house, and it was a very successful vaccine clinic, and they were able to also vaccinate quite a few of their teachers as well. So that was really, really good. Thank you to OU Health for their assistance and help in that particular clinic as well. And then later on that evening, we celebrated the opening of their multiplex gym that they have opened and built for the students there. So if you've ever been to a football game at Millwood and you remember those footballs going in the creek, this is where the multiplex stadium now sits, on top of the creek. But it is a beautiful multiplex gym, and I would encourage anyone to go look at it and see just the beauty of how now the Falcons can be able to prepare indoors for the games and things that are coming for them. I wanted to also thank Community Health Centers of Oklahoma because they have been very diligent in assisting in the process of getting COVID-19 vaccines out to our communities, as well as the Oklahoma City County Health Department. Thank you to them. And I say thank you, though, to Community Health Centers of Oklahoma. They were able to assist me and my mom getting vaccinated last week at the same time because I was very nervous and scared. But we did it together. So I'm glad we were both able to get the first shot, and now we're working towards getting that second one, and encouraging others to do what's best for themselves and their family, whether it be to get the vaccine or just stay at home and wear your mask. Either way, do what is best for you and your family. I also wanted to make mention of the Bridges to Access Conference, and thank you to OU for their ask to be a part of the conversation on Saturday afternoon. And one of the things that we were able to talk about is our Black physicians and the history of our Black physicians. And I think that's very timely for Black History Month. And I made mention of some of these a couple of years ago when I did my full month of Black History Facts. But Dr. Slaughter, who also has his mansion, he has a mansion and property off of 50th in I-235. He was the first Black doctor for our city of Oklahoma City, W.H. Slaughter. When we look at Dr. Haywood, whose building is now the home of Deep Deuce Grill. He bought that building in the late 1930s. He was the first African-American doctor to work at University Hospital, which we now call OU Health. So I think it's very important for us to remember these names in our history of physicians and people that come from our community in the realm of health and equity and space. And I say that because this was a time when our community could not go outside of our community to be treated. They had to be treated by a physician that looked like them in order for them to get the service. And unfortunately, we still have a lot of those concerns when it comes to our community being treated with equity in our healthcare system, especially now as we experience COVID and in the realms of what we've seen in different parts of Black and Brown communities and the disparities that we continue to see and work towards alleviating. But obviously that's a lot of work that's still left to be done. So for your Black History Month facts, I leave you with this. Terry Childers, he was the first and the only African-American city manager for the city of Oklahoma City. And he served from September 15th, 1986 until my birthday, July 18th, 1989. So he stressed the importance of beautifying Oklahoma City, not only to improve the quality of life for residents, but to improve citizens' respect for their hometown. So I reference again, he is the only one that we've had, and we didn't get him until 1986, and he only served 3 years. So clearly that means we still have a lot of work to do. Happy Black History Month.
Thank you. Ward 8.
Just briefly, Your Honor, congratulations to Nikki. Congratulations to Todd as they move forward towards their second term on the city council. I also want to give a shout out to Todd's biggest supporter, Mary Ann, who I've heard and been told that she campaigned and knocked doors in the most harsh and coldest weather. So congratulations, Mary Ann. And last, but also very important, City Clerk Amy Simpson. I am excited to have you on board. I look forward to working with you. And if there's any way I can help you with your new job, please let me know. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before we can continue, I know maybe you can answer this question, and I forgot to ask it earlier, pertaining to our buildings that are owned. The question has been asked as far as the Chesapeake Arena, and I understand there may be a game tonight, and what if we're going to do anything, or how does that work for people who may be asking in the era of what we're dealing with right now?
Sure, I'd be there for the city manager. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, so we're in communication with them, and again, I think it's doing what we can to manage the power at the buildings. Right now, the game is planned to go forward. We're going to have conversations with them about the use of the building and about with ASM as far as like temperatures and all within the building. We've got to make sure that we're taking care of the building, taking care of patrons that are there. But right now, the plan is the game will go forward.
And I do understand that as of within the last 20 minutes, there has been a message from OG&E that they have suspended their hold of what they've been doing. So I guess we're still all just kind of curious and concerned at the same time.
Yeah, so we're doing what we can to try to help conserve the energy. And like yesterday, it rolled in and out of that. They went to that level, what's called a level 3, based upon the power availability, the energy availability. And so I know that that's something that probably will come out of it for a period, but potentially with the weather as they cool into the evening and there's more demand on the system, that we could see that happen again. So I don't think that necessarily means that it's over, but we'll definitely doing everything we can with our facilities to try to make sure that we're conserving energy where we can.
Okay. So I am told that we had apparently some technical difficulties when we took votes on the MFA and PPA agendas items. And so it has been requested by the city manager and the city clerk that we revote those items. And so we are going to go back to our count in the beginning of our council agenda to recess council now and convene again as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority and cast a vote on items A through C again and make sure that it was properly recorded. So if you wouldn't mind joining me in that endeavor, we would need a motion and a second now for the MFA docket. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Councilman McAtee, how do you wish to vote? Councilman McAtee?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I wish to vote aye as well. Passes unanimously. All right, we will now again adjourn OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we have items A through C. We can take again on a second motion. We have a motion and a second. What's that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Larry. And I vote aye as well. Passes unanimously. We'll now adjourn OCPPA and reconvene again as the City Council. And we are now at city manager reports. Item 12, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. So we have just a brief presentation. Just wanted to give everyone an update on the debris cleanup from the ice storms. So we have Chris Browning, Eric Winger, and Doug Cupper on the line to be able to just give a quick update for their various areas. I know the residential is the one that's probably had the most attention, but we've had a lot of efforts in other areas as well. So I'll let Chris start us off with just a quick update on the residential cleanup.
Thank you, Craig. I'm happy to report that we finished the first pass on schedule on January 30th. And then we actually completed the second pass a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. We finished it last Saturday. The original amount was estimated to be about 100,000 tons, and we collected right at 125,000 tons. So it was a bit more than what we originally anticipated, but we were able to collect everything ahead of schedule. So because we finished the second pass so quickly, some of the debris may not have been collected during the second pass. So what we're going to do is go ahead and collect that debris during the normal bulky schedule. So we'll be collecting that as it's set out on the curb with the bulky waste. We do need to go ahead and terminate the normal, the emergency debris collection so that we can process the FEMA reimbursement claim. That claim is somewhere in the $15 million range. And so, again, happy to report that we're ahead of schedule and that we will continue to pick up any limbs that may fall during this cold, windy weather that we're having, or limbs that may be hanging that people cut down through the end of the month. So at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about residential, and then I'll turn it over to Eric Winger for the Public Works briefing. Okay, Eric, are you on?
I am. Thanks, Chris. This is Eric Winger, Public Works Director. As you may recall, there's a joint effort with Utilities, Public Works, and Parks on the debris removals, and Public Works was more focused on arterial streets, but also including schools and churches and residential areas that might include like HOA. We too were on a very similar time frame as Utilities and completed first and second passes just in the last couple of weeks, and so we've made both of those. There are a few locations that still have some limbs that are high up in trees that we just were not able to address this past week due to the inclement weather. But with a warming trend beginning hopefully this weekend, we are expecting to actually finish up all remaining hanging limbs next week. In coordination with Utilities, we are asking that any residential customers that do have any limbs remaining that are not going to be put out for bulky waste, that they place those out on behind the curb by Friday, February the 19th. Public Works also needs to finalize its utility and FEMA claims. And so we're trying to get that wrapped up because these contractors will want to move to other areas of need, and we need to do that. Total collections on the arterial streets was about 18,200 tons, so significantly less, but we had 52 total different crews working. We have 3 active that will be available probably in the next week just to finish that operation. So I too can answer any questions that you may have regarding the Public Works response to the pickup. And I believe Doug Cupper is also online and he can update hopefully on the park status.
Good morning, Doug Cupper, Parks and Recreation. Thanks, Eric and Chris. Big thank you to Eric and his contractors. They helped us out quite a bit by picking up what was hauled to the curb line, and their contractors have cleaned up. So far, of our medians and right-of-ways, we are 57% completed. In the ground debris that was that actually fell off the trees, we are at 18% in the broken and hanging. If you all recall, we got a little bit later start in getting our contractors lined up. In our parks, we are 60% complete on the ground cleanup. the whole of the grounds maintenance organization, as well as natural resources, have been dragging debris to the curb line so that Eric's contractors could pull it out. So we're 60% on the cleanup of ground debris, and we are at 58% for the broken and hanging that are in the tree canopies where we anticipate actually removing them. We, if you might recall, a few weeks ago, I mentioned that we have hundreds of acres of forested areas where we don't have trails or active recreational activities going on. That's a natural occurrence. We do not anticipate getting into those large urban forest areas and doing the broken and hanging in those. We are focusing our attention on getting those limbs that are hanging over playgrounds, skate parks, our bicycle trails, our off-road bicycle trails, and our walking paths, improved walking paths as well as unimproved walking paths in the park system. And that is where we're at as it relates to the parks cleanup and median cleanups. I stand ready to answer any questions, as Chris and Eric are as well.
So I appreciate the presentations from Chris and from Eric and from Doug. I did want to note too that part of our budget amendment today that was introduced today, we'll talk about it more at the next meeting, but part of that budget amendment does include some use of funds within the general fund to be able to cover the initial cost of the cleanup for both on the rights of way as well as within the parks and the other public areas. And that is all we have on that report. Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could, go ahead. Councilman, go ahead. I just wanted to express my thanks. That is a huge undertaking. I mean, the magnitude of it is just amazing. And I know there's always going to be issues. I mean, if you think about it, we basically went out and physically touched every resident of this city's property. And I know there were some slight hiccups in there. It's certainly understandable. And I just wanted to commend you guys again for putting the plan in place and getting it done. And I can tell you, visiting with constituents, for the most part, everyone was extremely happy. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'll echo the gratitude from Councilman Stone. I just wanted to verify some percentages real quick, make sure I heard some of them right. So in our parks, we have addressed 60% of the ground debris and then 58% of the hanging limbs. That's correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
And that's over 170 parks.
170 parks. Okay. And then, thank you, Doug. And then with the medians, it's 57% of the ground debris and then 18% of the broken and hanging. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And then here's where it all slipped away from me. The residential percentages and the arterial percentages, if someone wouldn't mind reiterating that for me, please.
Councilman, we are 100% complete with the residential.
Okay.
We are also 100% complete on the arterial, except for a few broken and hanging that will be removed next week. But there's 100% of the items that have been placed behind the curb are picked up.
Okay. And if there are any stragglers out there, if a resident has anything, they would just contact our ward office and or you all, utilities and public works or parks. Is that about right?
No, sir. They can put the debris out with their normal bulky schedule, and it will be collected.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Apologies if I missed it during the presentation. I was taking notes. So, okay. Thank you.
So Mayor, we have a few other items that are on the city manager reports. We don't have any other presentations. One of particular note, and we've got good information in these that just shows, what we're dealing with, the revenue enforcement program, the hotel tax collections will show, where they are in the collections, but the interim financial report gives an overview, focused particularly on the general fund, but then also in other operating funds. And the general fund is in a very good position right now to be able to manage through where we are with revenues over expenditures, and leaving us in a really good position going into next year's budget as well. And so I think, we'll be looking at some options. One of the things that we're dealing with right now is trying to take care of some of the capital needs that have been delayed in other areas. And so we're looking at those, but also make sure that we can take care of all the needs we have with the funding the debris cleanup and the rights of way, and then on the parks. But then also, we have staffs that are out dealing with the ice and snow right now. That's some additional overtime that we'll have, and that'll impact the budget somewhat, but we're still in a really good position with where reserves are right now and where we are with revenues over expenditures. So I'm really in a good position there, but I just take note of those presentations. City manager reports. We don't have any other presentations.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, and obviously thank you to
Mayor.
Go ahead.
May I ask Craig one question very briefly? On your revenue enforcement program, the handout on the last page, you talked about the independent audit program. And the one thing I noticed that there was a reference to that 2 of the 3 authorized independent auditors became no longer available. Is that because of budgetary cuts or some other reason?
I don't know the exact reason. Those is not budgetary. Typically what we look at on this program is we will pay the upfront on the cost of the audits. And, or actually what we do is we contract, I think, on most of those for contingency. So generally if someone falls off, it's just because they haven't, for some reason, they weren't going to be able to continue doing those audits. But I can get you more information on what was the cause, but it's not a budgetary restriction.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Mr. City Manager, obviously you and your staff of thousands, we're very, very grateful, especially at times like this. So thank you for what everybody is doing. I know it's a tough week, so we appreciate it. Okay, we're at item 13, citizens to be heard. I understand we have one resident that has signed up to speak. Is Lou Brook on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind stating your name and address and keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less, and the city clerk will try to give you a verbal warning when you have 30 seconds left. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Lou Brook. I live at 2257 Northwest 36th Street. My comment today is a poem about what it's like to comment at a city council meeting as a member of the public, and it's called 3 minutes. 3 minutes. To write that speech, we'll need to spend the day. 3 minutes. To make an impact, we'll find the words to say. 3 minutes, we'd better plan, or we'll run out of time. 3 minutes, we can't stammer. Faltering cost us lines. 3 minutes, it's official. 3 minutes, no more. 3 minutes, no visual, unless it's 3 days before. 3 minutes to an empty room where the mayor looks away. 3 minutes, finally, over Zoom. So it might be safe to say 3 minutes worth of what it is that weighs upon our hearts. 3 minutes to share how clever it is, the wisdom we impart. 3 minutes, we're on a roll. Members will speak with us afterwards. 3 minutes, we're too droll. Our ears hear your laughter. It's 3 minutes we have to wait for hours that hurt us. 3 minutes we have to pay for. Today, I took off work for this. 3 minutes, we'd better wait for them, or something we've learned is 3 minutes when we're late for them, the meeting has adjourned. It's 3 minutes and not long enough to convince y'all of anything. 3 minutes, we don't belong enough to speak on many things. 3 minutes until we have to prove. 3 minutes where we're tested. 3 minutes until you'll have us removed. 3 minutes until we'll be arrested. 3 minutes is all we have before y'all will call the cops. 3 minutes and we're scared. They will kill us off. 3 minutes, we proclaim. Paying taxes makes us complicit. 3 minutes, we're ashamed. Our cops murder our residents. 3 minutes, it's clear. Police presence won't help with things. 3 minutes, I fear. This poem is a death sentence. It's 3 minutes to remind myself my white vagina protects me. 3 minutes to rhyme for those
who the police do get. See, 3 minutes isn't very much time to tell y'all all that's wrong. 3 minutes, but it is all mine. And I'll keep up the song for 3 minutes. Our police killed Tilfer, Benny, and Stavian. 3 minutes. Our police killed Michael, Brandon, James, and 3 minutes. Our police killed Kyle, Samuel, Elray, and Justin. 3 minutes. Our police killed Michael, Leo, Brian, Quentin. 3 minutes. Our police killed Vincent, Jacob, Tony, Chris, and 3 minutes. Our police killed Hayden, William, Maxwell, and so many I haven't even named.
Okay, there's 30 seconds
3
left.
minutes. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have item 9P, I believe, which was previously voted on to go into an executive session. And so now we will handle that business and then we will come back to adjourn. There are no further votes contemplated. I believe every member of the council has an email probably to take them into that separate Zoom for the executive session. So we will see you there and we will return. Thank you. Okay, we have a quorum and we have completed executive session and we have now returned back for item 14, which is adjournment. And we are adjourned. Thank you all. Be warm.